Hey, what's going on, 9-time Virgin Gang? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. Let's talk about modern cards and some grades for a little bit. It's been something floating around a little bit on the old social media platforms. So you look anywhere, you log on to anywhere. Modern cards are just absolutely dominating conversations. Not to say vintage doesn't have its place. Not to say vintage doesn't have people that are absolutely crazy about it. Not to say vintage doesn't have value. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just when you look at conversations, you look at the majority of what people are talking about, it's definitely going to be modern, future sets, Surging Sparks, things in Scarlet and Violet, things in Sword and Shield, things that I feel like the average person has a much better chance of picking up. Vintage, for what it is, it's very cool. The singles are available. You can pick them up. They do have value. The big thing for vintage is vintage sealed collections right this second. That's what everyone and their mom is wanting to get. Like getting a sealed box of something like that. What you do with it's up to you. That's where it's at. But like average Joes like myself and a lot of people watching the channel, we can't really get that super easily. It's not something that I feel comfortable draining my savings account and just throwing at a box and being like, this is a good purchase for me. This is what's going to be. I don't have that same inkling but however, I can pick up modern product. I can pick up like modern booster boxes, Surging Sparks. If I want to just say, fuck it, I'm not going to like get some energy drinks this payday, and I took a little bit of the money and decided to throw it at a booster box of Surging Sparks for the channel or something like that, I have a much better chance and a much better like feeling about doing that kind of stuff than buying anything vintage. Modern's a lot more relatable. Modern is a lot more easily accessible to the average person, and since there's more people in it that demand it, that want it, it's easier for hype to get around it. And fucking chase cards for modern sets, regardless of how you feel about the prices, it's easier for them to actually get the hype and the price and have the same level of excitement in some cases as a lot of vintage stuff. With that being said, a lot of people pick up modern chase cards from said sets, whether it's alternate arts or any of the other things they like, right? They try to get them graded, whether you like any of the big three fucking grading companies, whether it's PSA, Beckett, CGC, whatever. It's your choice ultimately. A lot of people are shooting for 10s. That needs no explanation. The higher the grade, the fucking better the value for a lot of stuff. Unless it's a PSA 1, then there's a niche group of people that collect PSA 1s, and they have a lot, their value sometimes is better than like PSA 6s or 7s. It's just crazy how that works. They're very low pop. People try to get them specifically. PSA doesn't like grading them, so whatever the fuck it is, that's the only exception to that rule. But generally, 8, 9, 10, all those kind of go up sequentially, then fucking like all that stuff. Higher the grade, better the value. A lot of people shoot for 10s. A lot of people really want a lot of the modern cards to be in 10s, with some people right now asking, if I don't get a 10, what's up with that? Because look at the 10s over here. Look at what's happening with these ones right over here. The modern chases, these ones are at 10s. I obviously need 10s too. If I don't get these, then I'm going to absolutely lose on so much money. What do I do? Is it okay to get card, slabs that aren't 10s? Is it okay to get 9s and 8s? Is it okay for this stuff to happen? So I'm just going to give my take. This is something that was asked over on r/Pokey Investing. This is people that are actually looking for that stuff. It's really easy to see like where people are like, well, obviously I have to get a 10. Is a 9 even worth getting? Is an 8 even worth getting? Is it worth my time? And this is coming from me. This is just my fucking opinion on the whole matter. As someone who doesn't own a business, someone who doesn't sell cards a whole fucking lot, and someone who generally picks up stuff that I like to add to the collection. And this is how I feel about this. So me personally, I have zero issue picking up 9s, absolutely at all. I have zero issue picking up a PSA 9, a BGS 9, CGC, I'm not really, but like, like one of the older blue label CGC 9s, absolutely. I've got no issue picking that stuff up. A lot of the times for these chase cards, you can basically get a card that's like half off, if not sometimes even lower. And if it's an auction, you can get an absolute steal for certain things, because 9s really, they sit in this weird spot. They're not bad. It's not a fucking damaged card really or anything like that. It's really just a grader, put a number on the card, and that's what it is. So like 9s, it doesn't really matter necessarily if it's a hard 9 or a soft 9. A hard 9 being like you're looking at it, it looks so fucking good. You're like, how did this not get a 10? A soft 9, you're looking at it, it's like, this probably should have got like an 8 or a 7. People don't really care. A 9 is a 9. You're paying a 9 price for that. And that's generally how it goes with 10s too. So it doesn't really matter if it was like a really it's a 9 or an 8, but somehow the The fucking grader, he had a really good night that night. Went on a date for the first time in months. Had a super good dinner. Like, found a fucking lottery ticket. They won like $500. Had the time of their life. And they decided to grade a 10. Or, you know, the grader, they came home and their dog just shat all over their house and ate their sofa, right? So, like, fuck it, sofa. Everything's 9 now. It doesn't matter what it is. And think about it, too. So, graders have a lot of cards I'm sure they have to look at, right? I know people have been at work. I know people have done stuff for, like, some menial tasks. Obviously, nothing super, super important. But, like, you're doing something repetitively. You're doing something over and over again. You do the first, like, maybe, like, 25-30% of them how you're supposed to, and then you're looking at stuff and you think you know actually how to do it. You're like, okay, I've been doing this for long enough. Complacency starts sitting in, so you start just looking at stuff, you start spot checking, you start doing what you're thinking, you're not finding anything obvious with it, and then cards just kind of squeak through the cracks. 9s become 10s, 10s become 8s. Stuff happens where, you know, fucking everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes, everyone falls into, like, fucking trends, and it just happens, right? So stuff like that happens all the time. So you can pick up some 9s, right? And I do this. I have 9s. Here's my 9s that I've been picking up lately right here. A lot of Japanese full art trainers. So Japanese full art trainers, when they're 10s, they do have a little bit of value to them. When they're 9s, that shit gets cut in half. And so the Carmine especially, I think at that time, the fucking Carmine, it was like when I picked it up, it was like $160 for a 10, and I picked up the 9 for 60. I got it for like absolutely nothing. And then the Iono, so you got to remember, that was an $1,800 card at one point. Like, that shit was kicking ass. Like, $1,800. Look, for comparison, the card everyone's losing their fucking mind about in Japanese, the Umbreon EX SAR, right there. It's listed up for pre-order and pre-buy on fucking eBay for $500. That's insane. A character that people did not like and fucking called annoying, even though most of the people that were calling her annoying were content creators and streamers themselves doing the exact same things that she did. Yeah, it's funny that, like, they were like, oh, if we get $1,800 for that card, I'll sign up for that all day. And then Umbreon over here is like, fine. I'm not saying I like those prices. I'm not saying it's good. I don't like those prices. I think that's kind of fucking stupid. And hopefully as time goes on with boxes currently being affordable for Japanese, it really isn't that big of a deal. Hopefully the prices, when the set comes out, it dips down to a reasonable price, right? But it is what it is. Fucking Iono, $1,800 card. I think the fucking 10 was $500. I got it for like less than $200, man. I got it for like $180, $190 because it was a 9. And like I said, if you're that person, you got that kind of perseverance and you got that dog in you, you can actually take a lot of these cards, crack the slabs. Don't fucking crack them bad. Don't shove a screwdriver. Just start twisting around there trying to get your card free, right? There's ways to do it. Crack your slab safely. You can kick those cards back up, and there's a good shot you're going to get a 10. I've seen several creators that specifically go after 9s and fucking regrade them until they become 10s. And a lot of the times, they're very successful with this, whether it takes 1 or 2 times for it to actually happen. It's just the sheer volume of cards that goes through PSA. It's one of those things, like people said, it's not really so much about the fucking card's condition. Like, it's a hard 9 or it's a hard 10. If it's in a 9 slab or if it's in a 10 slab, that's what the fuck it's going for, okay? Especially for a lot of the value motherfuckers there. I don't personally care. A lot of the slabs I picked up was a cheaper option than the raw. Yeah, the Japanese trainers that I was looking at, the fucking raw value of, because it was a potential PSA 10 candidate, was more expensive than the PSA 9 counterpart, which is kind of crazy to me, but at the same time, that's just how the market goes. They value 10s, they value that fucking high value, and they don't really care about the 9s because it's a failed grade, basically. It doesn't matter. It's not what they wanted. They fucking want 10s. Me personally, I think it's worth your time. I think especially if you're just trying to add cards to your fucking collection grade and you want to crack the slabs and add them to your binder, you're basically getting mint cards for like under what the raw value is a lot of the times. You can pick up some absolute deals, especially on Japanese cards. English cards, the deals do still exist. There are people that are looking at 9 specifically, and they're like, maybe, maybe not. It's a little bit more like that, but I have seen some great deals for cards on 9s. I think 9s are good. I think 9s are great. I think you can pick them up, and there's really no downside to it, especially if you're getting it for like half the price of a 10, and you don't really care so much about that, with the potential of you cracking it and it possibly being a 10 again. I mean, it's like, it's almost like kind of a fucking no-brainer. It's like, well, yeah, get this card and stuff, especially if you don't care about actually showing it as a 10. That's me personally. That's how I feel about the whole thing. You're welcome to how you feel about the entire process. I just don't personally care that much about it, and to me, 9s look great. 9s are great for the collection, and they, like I said, I can save a little bit of money, get the chase cards I like. I'm a pretty happy guy. That's all I got. Appreciate it, Virgin Gang. See you later. Yeah, it's just one of those things. you know, the PSA market and what people do with that stuff. It's crazy. People have their preferences, but I mean, a 9's a 9, baby. Fucking 9. Yeah. You know, you squint a little bit. 9 kind of looks like a 10. You're kind of like that. You have a couple beers or something, and that 9 turns to a 10 real fucking quick. You know what I'm saying?